Do not go gentle into that good night. All day shall burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. What happens when a story unveils slowly through mundane everyday life, when the purpose is not to achieve but to develop? Night in the Woods is a game created through this vision. The approach given to this game is more of a narrative-focused one, where you uncover secrets and learn about the protagonist's story through exploration and interaction. The game itself is a self-contained story of a mundane, sleepy little town with dark secrets. At the same time, it talks about alienation, mental illness, and the difficulties that kids growing up in small towns can face due to a lack of resources. Though wise men, at their end, no dark is right, because their words had forth no lying, they do not go gentle into that good night. The story begins when May Borowski, our protagonist, having just dropped out of college for unknown circumstances, arrives back home to Possum Springs. From the beginning, May appears to have expectations of what will welcome her in town. Same sleepy old town, her old friends, her usual hangouts. She expects it all to be comforting and predictable. Instead, she arrives to find a sinking ship. The townspeople are leaving due to a lack of jobs, money, and resources. Many businesses have left town, and there are ghosts of the past still haunting the way the town develops. Her friends as well have changed. Greg, her bestie before she left, while energetic and definitely excited to see her, has become more level-headed and even has plans of leaving town with his boyfriend Angus. B, her school best friend from before she met Greg, has grown cold and reserved due to her family issues after her mother's death. There's a lot of unresolved trauma behind every citizen that still lives in Possum Springs. After spending a few days exploring, hanging out, getting accustomed to daily life, and finding some guy's arm, May witnesses what she believes to be a ghost kidnapping a teenager. While her friends are skeptical of said accusations, they help her investigate the story of Possum Springs for possible ghost science. You can go to the library, to a haunted house, to a cemetery, or to the old camping grounds on a hike. Each location will end with the ghost appearing in one way or another and chasing May and her friends. It is actually very spooky, like legitimately spooky. Along with the real world going-ons, May has been having increasingly weird, vivid dreams filled with shapes and creatures. As the story progresses, the dreams keep getting longer and more frightening, and the lack of proper sleep worsens May's already decaying mental health. The investigations lead them nowhere about the ghost, but it does tell us about the dark history of Possum Springs. There have been murders, cover-ups, and even a pretty cool union story about some guys pulling their boss's teeth due to him not wanting to pay them their dues. If you are in a union, consider removing the teeth of your boss when they don't pay you for your work, as a bonding activity. May decides that the best would be to confront the forest where the ghost disappeared to and investigate along with her friends. Once there, they stumble upon a group of cloaked individuals who seem to be berating one of their members for losing an arm while disposing of a body. They kill the guy, to which our heroes react to, bring attention to themselves. There is a chase, but May gets almost shot and falls to her almost death. After this, May is in a kind of trance. We appear in and out of consciousness, where we see her family worried sick, some mysterious fellas talking about her, and her friends being stalked by the figures. She wakes up in her room and somehow makes her way to Greg's house, where she explains why she dropped out of college. May suffers from depersonalization, a condition where you feel detached from yourself or others, and it can show itself in many ways. In May's case, it is through shapes. She sees everything as shapes and lines, while feeling a strong emotional detachment of the world. Nothing was there for me anymore, as she explains it. 6 years prior to the story, she had a strong episode where she ended up bludgeoning some guy, whom her parents had to pay for the hospital bills, financially straining her family. After the revelation, May tries to leave her friends behind and face the ghost by herself, to which they call her an idiot and follow her along. They enter the town's old mines, from which most of the previous economic development came from, but were later closed down. There they encounter the cloaked individuals. They are called trying to maintain the town's economic prowess by killing people they consider undesirables, including Hunter of Narrative, Casey, a friend of May who was very similar to her. They perform the kills to appease a godlike entity represented by a black goat, and are hoping May and her friends will continue with said killings. They let them go, but one of the cultists attacks May while getting out, which causes a cave-in and collapses the mine, leaving the cultists allegedly trapped underground. After these events, May will discuss her feelings about the happenings with one of her friends, and she will come to the conclusion that as long as she's alive, she will adapt and grow and enjoy the time she has with her loved ones. I have a playthrough if you want to see the full story. I skipped a lot of things that may have been important, but that's basically the gist of it. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage against the dying of the light. When I first played Night in the Woods, I was a college student, on the verge of dropping out in the midst of one of the worst depressive episodes of my life. I only remember bits and pieces of that time due to mental illness, but I do remember that I vehemently disliked May. Now I can look back and think, oh, she was like me. I hated May because she reflected my real-life conditions to a scary point, and I wasn't in a place where I could understand the why. May Borowski could be considered an unlikable protagonist. She is extremely flawed. From the very beginning, we are told that she has not done good things in her life. She almost killed someone. She appears to behave in a way that doesn't take into consideration others' feelings. When we think of an unlikable protagonist, it doesn't mean you cannot like the character. It just means that the character itself is portrayed in a specific way to move the narrative to a specific direction. It is a narrative tool used to create complexity on a story. Can you tell I was an English major? Some examples of narratives with these kind of characters are The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, which was turned into a very popular movie, or if you are more cartoon inclined, Pearl from a Steven Universe. Unlikable protagonists are a bit of a risk. They can be easily misunderstood. They risk alienating the reader by not making them relatable. Some readers may even want the protagonist to fail. This makes it all the more compelling for me though. Isn't it exciting to have a complex character teach us about life from their own eyes? You can use an unlikable character to show the result of poor choices. You can make them grow despite their flaws. You can make them force people to face their own demons and show us humanity through different perspectives. May makes a lot of dubious choices during the time we spend with her. She can be rude and childish. She tries unknowingly to bring down those close to her. But we see her grow. We see her understand that everything changes, and mental illness is not an excuse, that sometimes you need help, and it's okay to ask for it. It is also okay to be unapologetically yourself. Wild men who caught and sang the song in flight, and learned too late they grieve it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. One facet of May that makes her so compelling is her mental illness. Many stories use mental illness as a tool for the narrative to move on, but Night in the Woods uses it to start the story and stagnate the progress of the protagonist. Mental illness is a complex subject on itself. You could spend hours reading about it and still not get the gist of it. There are as many mental illnesses as physical ones, and they can be just as bad. The worst part is that it's your own body attacking you constantly. I only have my own experience on the subject and that which I have read about it. I'm not a medical professional and much less an expert. I do know how it hits you. Sometimes it is slow. You barely notice it taking part in your everyday life. Other times it is so fast you get whiplash. You can be having a good day and then a freaking piano falls on your head out of nowhere. It is hard. It is something you have to keep pushing. like a boulder up a hill, and it is exhausting. It is so easy to attribute your difficulties to personal failings instead of the gnome that lives in your brain and is burning everything it finds. May has one bad episode, and it leads to more issues than anything else. The first one leaves her family emotionally and financially broken. The second one forces her to quit college, something she legitimately wanted to do. The game is so respectful of this condition. It is not treated as a joke. May feels real fear over seeing her friends and loved ones as shapes and lines, as something that is nothing. Imagine being the only person in the world and everything else is just not there, alone, in an empty space. Grave men, near death, who see the blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like mirrors and be gay. Rage against the dying of the light. I think we might be the only things in the universe who care about anything. May is not the only compelling character of the story. Greg is a gay man in a small town where people are not quite there with diversity and may never be. He's with Angus, a guy who was severely abused by his parents growing up and still holds a relationship with them despite it all. Bee is a young woman who had to take her parents' place when her mother died, becoming a caregiver and not being able to worry about herself and her needs. Laurie is a socially anxious teen who spends her time alone thinking about death. I think a lot of stories that don't quite hit the mark do so because they don't take into account the humanity of it all. Yes, the protagonist is complex, but what about everyone else? Is the story compelling if the only one with a life is the protagonist? Night in the Woods does a great job of filling the little town with lots of characters that have their own lives and feelings. It makes you feel for these people and see how the town, despite declining financially, is still full of life. And you, my father, there on the sad height. Curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gently to that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. I recently read a book called Art and Fear by David Bales. In it, the world of being an artist and fears that come with it is discussed. I've been struggling these past few months. I was laid off on my job and haven't been able to get another one, so I decided to make art and content until I find one. Do something with my time, learn something new, etc, etc. And I've been struggling so hard to not feel like a failure. This book explains that art is worth doing even if no one else cares. It says that your human voice is unique and you should express that in the best of your abilities, because listening to you, yourself, the person behind the art, is important and meaningful and beautiful. I was going to talk about the world of Night in the Woods as a whole, but that's not what I wanted to say per se. I love Night in the Woods because it exists. I can sing art's poetica of how it touches upon difficult and emotional subjects and depicts life in realistic ways, but I will never be able to truly explain what it means to me. To see some silly animated cat go through it while I'm also going through it. Art is subjective, and I'm not here to tell you how to feel about it. I just like to highlight the beautiful of it all. Like always, be kind, be mindful, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.